Welcome back. All right, so we're going to round out the West, looking at the Minnesota Wild, the last team in the West I have not covered as of yet, meaning I start the Eastern Conference previews tomorrow, and of course it'll be the Atlantic Division I do first, and then the Metro Division after, and with two per day, so it ends up being 8 more days of previews, and then they're done. We're all set for the preseason, and we'll get into some of the fantasy stuff, things like that, but with the Minnesota Wild, this is a team that wasn't that far off from potentially winning the Central Division in 2022-2023. This past season, they missed the playoffs. They faded late. What are they going to do this year? We'll see. They're going to be in the mix, I think, for the playoffs. But Kirill Kaprizov is their leading scorer over the last 10 years, which surprised me a bit. 278 games played, 160 goals, 170 assists, 330 points. But it's been a matter of the turnover. There might have been somebody else who could have been the leader, but the turnover in players means that he's the leading scorer over the last 10 years. Jared Spurgeon, 638 games, 93 goals, 215 assists, 308 points. Zach Parise, 443 games played, 152 goals, 154 assists, 306 points. Ryan Suter, 526 games played, 43 goals, 251 assists, 294 points. Matt Zuccarello, 324 games played, 84 goals, 197 assists, 281 points. Joel Eriksson Ek, 498 games played, 122 goals, 148 assists, 270 points. And he's kind of the West's Sasha Barkov in that anytime you do a best of list, you will have Minnesota fans saying, if it includes two-way play, Joel Eriksson Ek deserves to be on that list. And I'm not going to disagree. I think he's an underrated player in part because he plays in Minnesota. Michael Granlund, 371 games played, 83 goals, 185 assists, 268 points. Mikko Koivu, 427 games, 75 goals, 182 assists, 257 points. Eric Stahl, 311 games played, 111 goals, 129 assists, 240 points. And Matthew Dumba, 585 games played, 78 goals, 156, 234 points. So what's interesting is it's less than 100 points between first and 10th on the list. Now, in terms of goaltenders, again, over the last 10 years, Devin Dubnyk, their leader in wins, a record of 177, 113, and 28. Callum Talbot, 51, 20, and 9. Marc-Andre Fleury, 50, 33, and 9. Philip Gustafsson, 42, 27, and 11. And Alex Stalock qualifies for the board at 37, 30, and 11. Now, looking over the last 5 years at the team's record, and again, around middle of the pack, which for Wild fans has to be frustrating, right? Because this is a team that has not got out of the second round since 2003, but they haven't got out of the first round since 2015. And in points percentage at 613, they're 11th overall in the NHL. Goals for per game, 3.21, also 11th overall. Goals against per game, 2.98. That qualifies as 16th over the last 5 years. Power play, 21%, which is 12th. And penalty kill, 77.9%, 23rd, which gets weighed down by this year's numbers. This year's numbers, 530 points percentage, that's 21st in the NHL. 3.02 goals for is also 17th, and 3.17 goals against, 20th in the National Hockey League. Their power play was actually pretty good. It was 10th in the league at 22.7%. Very hot and cold. Penalty kill, 74.5%, 30th. And at times looked abysmal for Minnesota. So they need that penalty kill to be better, the defense to be better, and they need the goaltending to be a little bit better too. You know, a good penalty kill, your best penalty kill is your goaltender. So looking at their top 10 scorers from this past season, it is not a surprise that Kirill the Thrill leads the way. 75 games, 46 goals, 50 assists, 96 points. If he can play a full season, 50 goals and 100 points should be a given. Matt Boldy, 75 games, 29 goals, 40 assists, 69 points. Joel Eriksson Ek, 77 games, 30 goals, 34 assists, 64 points. Matt Zuccarello, 69 games, 12 goals, 51 assists, 63 points. Brock Faber, 82 games, 8 goals, 39 assists, 47 points. And Calder consideration given to him. We'll see what Faber does for an encore this season. Ryan Hartman, 74 games, 21 goals, 24 assists, 45 points. Marco Rossi, 82 games, 21 goals, 19 assists for 40 points. Marcus Johansson, 78 games, 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points. Jonas Brodin, 62 games, 7 goals, 20 assists, 27 points. And never underestimate how important Brodin is to that blue line. Middleton, 80 games, 7 goals, 18 assists, 25 points to round out their top 10 scorers. Gustafsson led the way in wins with a record of 20-18-4, 899 save percentage, 3 shutouts. Marc-Andre Fleury was 17-15-5, 895 save percentage, 2 shutouts. Both of these goaltenders need to be better for Minnesota to end up above the playoff line this season. And again, there's enough good players here that they could very well end up above that playoff line. Now, for Rookie Watch, I included one player here, Marat Kuznetsov, who came in, made his debut towards the end of the season, looked pretty good. Not a lot of offense, but he didn't play top minutes, and I don't think he's going to play top minutes this year either, which is why I omitted him when I did the Calder Trophy video earlier today, or the look at the rookie class of 2024-2025. So their top 12 forwards, Kirill Kaprizov, Marco Rossi, and Matt Zuccarello. If you're going to take a bet on somebody whose points totals could go through the roof, Rossi could be a good pick, because if he's between Kaprizov and Zuccarello, who we know both of them can score, he will get points just by being on that line. Then you have Marcus Johansson, Joel Eriksson-Ek, and Matt Boldy potentially on that second line. And I say potentially because this could get switched up, right? But they should have 3 pretty good lines. That third line, I think Marcus Foligno, Freddie Gaudreau, Ryan Hartman. You have some veterans there, some experience. That fourth line, Jacob Lauko, Marat Kuznetsov, and Yakov Trenin. That being said, Kuznetsov could end up on the third line. Maybe they look at the start of the season and say, you know what, he's better off playing top minutes with Iowa in the AHL. We'll see. They do have some extras here who can play in the NHL. They have Darren Shore, Travis Boyd, Reese Johnson. They have Sammy Walker, who got into some games last season, Brendan Gaunce, Liam Ogren, who is a former first-round draft pick. I might have been able to put him in there, to be honest. I'm not going to do it now, but Liam Ogren could very well be a rookie to keep an eye on, because again, you don't know how healthy everybody's going to be during the season, and a guy like Ogren may very well get some good minutes in the event of somebody going down and then bringing somebody up to play. Adam Raska and Graham Clark have thrown on the board as well, so we'll see. And then on the blue line, you have Jonas Brodin, who again is very important to this team. Brock Faber, who's coming off of a very good rookie season, will look to add and build on that. Jacob Middleton, Jared Spurgeon. The return of Jared Spurgeon is another huge step for this team if they can get him into the lineup. He didn't play very much this past season. Obviously, they missed Brodin for 20 games. Staying healthy is really important in the National Hockey League in terms of making the playoffs. And then being able to win the Cup very often will depend on keeping everybody in the lineup. You have Declan Chisholm and Zach Bogosian there as well. The extras, John Merrill, who can play on that third pairing, Damon Hunt, Carson Lambos, who is, of course, a young player, and Ryan O'Rourke, a young player as well. Maybe one of them gets into some games for them on the blue line. In that, again, right now, it looks like it's going to be Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury, but Jesper Wallstedt is going to make a push, I think, for a spot, and it could get interesting early because Minnesota, maybe they're one of those teams that carry 3 goaltenders at the NHL level, which would give Troy Grosnick the net in Iowa, in all likelihood anyways. And so we'll see. Because Wallstedt looked pretty darn ready. It's a small sample size at the end of last season, but he looked good. So Fleury returning was kind of a surprise for some. And Gustafsson has been seen as a potential goaltender who could be moved at some point. So we'll see if things stay this way right up until the start of the season. But Wallstedt, he's close. At the very least, he's close. Cap space is still not a thing. For the final season, Minnesota Wild fans have to deal with people talking about their team, me included, and how they have that cap penalty for the Parise and Suter buyouts. But this is the last year that it's really restrictive. And considering that penalty, it's been remarkable how Bill Guerin has still put together a lineup that's been pretty competitive and pretty good, and we could still argue may find themselves above the playoff line. It helps that you have so many good young players, but that shows that their scouts are pretty good when it comes to their amateur scouts, and their pro scouts do their work as well, as they're able to add guys who usually perform pretty well in Minnesota jersey. So while they haven't had the playoff success and they haven't been able to really truly become a Stanley Cup contender over the last little while here, there's that potential that, again, once that cap space is there next summer, if they use that correctly, they could really beef up this lineup. They could be very tough in 2025-2026. So looking at the schedule, they start the season with 2 games at home in October, and their next 7 games are away from home. That 7-game road trip, very important. If they only win like 2 out of the 7, we may again, and we did, I believe, this past season's where they started rough as well. That can be tough. That can absolutely submarine your hopes for making the playoffs. In November, 8 out of 15 games are at home. They have a busy December as well. 9 out of 14 games are at home, though. So they have that 7-game road trip. But then after that, majority of their games are at home the rest of the way. But that December is busy. Remember, that's with the Christmas break towards the end of December, and they still have 14 games that month. So it's going to be a pretty bruising month for them. February, they have 2 games at home. 2 games away, and then 2 games at home. Then we have the Four Nations Cup. Then they have 1 away, 1 at home, and 2 away. So nicely balanced schedule in that month of February. And then in April, they finish the season with 4 out of 7 games on the road. Road records in the NHL over the recent seasons have seen teams get seemingly a lot better on the road. At least it feels like road records are better than what they were. And for Minnesota, if they're able to get a strong road record to start the season, we might be talking about them as a surprise team in the playoffs. Their Stanley Cup odds at plus 2,500 are honestly right around the same as Vancouver's. I think Vancouver's at plus 2,300. So Minnesota's seen as a team that, they're that right in between. Maybe they make the playoffs, maybe they don't. And they could be dangerous in said playoffs because you have Kaprizov, which for some reason I just put Kaprizov. And so I'm going to fix that. Normally I'd be like, well, I could do another take, but I have done so many takes on videos this weekend. Yesterday, my first 3 videos, I think it was 32 takes altogether. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. But anyway, so it's Kaprizov, and I've done that, so that's done. And thankfully, it looks really messy too. Anyways, let's get into the channel vote, shall we? The channel, 3% of the vote say first or second for Minnesota. 27% say third or fourth. So almost 1 in 3 votes vote them into the top 4. And I can see that. I can understand the optimism that some have about how this team could do. 58% say 5th or 6th, so that's a majority of the vote right there. And 12% say 7th or 8th. And with how competitive the Central Division is, I understand why there's 12% feeling they could be in the bottom 2. And I don't see that as like a lot of negativity. I see that more as this is a very strong division. It's going to be hard for them to make headway. But if Kaprizov stays healthy, and if they have Spurgeon, they have Brodin, and if Faber can continue to play the way he did this past season, then the only factor that would be out there as to whether or not they can make the playoffs, goaltending. Either getting a bounce-back season from Gustafsson, finding a way to get Wallstead more games, and or maybe Marc-Andre Fleury has an excellent season, considering this should be his final year. And I'm saying should be with a shrug because we've been saying that for a while. And even though it looks like this is his final year, I don't know. I would not be surprised if at the end of the year he goes, you know what? Yeah, I'll come back for another year. Sure. So we'll see what happens. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. It would be nice to see Minnesota get themselves into a place of contention. And I say that despite one of my favorite teams being Dallas and them being in the same division. But I'm rooting for Minnesota to actually, make the playoffs and do something in the playoffs for a change. I think it'd be great for fans in Minnesota. And, I mean, my wife cheers for the Wild, so it'd be kind of nice to see them do that for her as well. So, anyways, even if we had like a division final series between Minnesota and Winnipeg, she'd be happy, and then one of her teams is in the conference final. So anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Minnesota Wild, where you figure they're going to finish the season. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. And again, tomorrow we're into the East, and I'll talk to you then.